Something shocking. Would you change places with James?
Do I have to?
Yes, you have to.
Okay.
Sure.
It is shocking. I'll survive.
I wonder.
Are you sure?
No.
Just to give you a change of, to give myself a change of scenery. Is that your personal bar?
It is.
Uh-huh. Looks a lot like you. I'm going to start with a very, very difficult piece of work. I'm asking folks to see if they can do maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes without a negative thought. Maybe I'm not the only one who has difficulty doing 3, 4, or 5 minutes of it, but maybe somebody else will too. In fact, might even help situations not to go into the old trance modes. Just being like a person sitting regularly without any thoughts. I can't do this because of that, and that won't work out. And my God, the rent is going up. What's going to happen to me? And the office where I worked is now going to become a cattle ranch. And all the things that we think of that are all elevators and staircases going down. Can we do that with our minds? Not one negative thought. Not one. Try it. How are you doing so far? Let me hear. I think I'm losing my hearing.
I've had negative thoughts, the dialogue of not being good enough in various forms.
You're having that now while you're
Since we began, I have had.
achieving. Other folks, let me hear more.
I usually have a lot of negative thoughts, and for whatever reason, it's been, it was relatively easy for that stretch. I thought of ice cream. Hard to think negatively about ice cream, except you're going to go on a rant then about how bad ice cream is for you, but I didn't think about that. And then I thought about my children sleeping, and so it was very peaceful, calm, and so it was all very benign.
Okay, good, terrific for you. Anybody else have any experiences one way or the other? How did you make out?
Perfectly.
No negative thought.
No.
Terrific. Do you generally have them?
No.
Even better.
Sometimes when I forget that everything is not perfect. There's a way of just not allowing a thing to happen and not assigning whether it's good or bad. So then it isn't a negative thought, even if it's a negative thing. And that's been something that you've had me working on for several months now. That is occurring, so I don't have to become acidic because I'm experiencing that happening.
Found it, like David, I was putting a positive thought in my head to feel. Only because while I was sitting here, not a negative thought, but a negative experience would happen. For instance, like pain in my head for a second. And the mind wanted to think about it or accept it or judge it in some way. And I found just a little moment there of kind of settling down where I wouldn't say struggle, but there was a void that I felt, all right, let me just try thinking of something positive. So I just thought of love. Thought of
What do you
who I
think
love.
of love?
Well, at the moment, because I was looking at you, I thought that how much I loved you and how happy I was that you were here. And it seemed quite easy then to maintain.
It was when the chair made the comment, Mark found himself was bracing himself for what could the difficult thing be, the difficult work, and then it was a good shock to Mark to be to remind myself, wow, I was sleepwalking here, and I told myself not to get to the point where I need to walk quickly here, and how many times I told myself that, and so I felt like Mark was just in some kind of robotic mode, get the pants. And so he let himself be filled with thoughts like it's too hot, it's this, it's that. And so he felt that he was unconscious for a while, and then this idea, no negative thoughts, woke Mark up to be present here.
I was just observing, and I think was able to avoid negative thoughts just by noticing things around the space, the books behind you, and the lights, and the fireplace where there's never been any fire, and the feathers on the wall, and just I've been thinking a lot about the space here, and your invitation gave me a chance to look very closely at it.
This has become lately, within the last year, I think that I and many people around me have been paying a lot of attention to the things we do. And all of us did a lot of time and work. This is what I did, and I did this is what I did. We can, at the end of the day, we can probably write a page of the things we've done for the day. And then I started believing more wholeheartedly with each passing day that what we do today is not as important as what we think today. Because today's thoughts are going to turn into tomorrow's realities. We can ask ourselves, gee, this is my life at this point. I don't know that I'm too nuts about this part. I don't know about that part. And we seldom stop to think, my life today is exactly what I thought. All the ideas I had, all the negative thoughts, which I'd like to go into a little bit more. Today is an actuality of all the thoughts that any of us have ever had for a long time. It all begins not with an action, it begins with a thought. It begins with the acceptance of an idea. For instance, there's a lot of young people, or older people even, for whom the idea of working is something that you shouldn't have to do. I gotta have a job because I have them, but I don't want to work. Well, if you catch those people 10 years down the line, 15, 20, or 30, you will see the results of what happens when somebody has made an acceptable decision that working is not for them. Well, other people have made a very accepting position that the idea of being responsible, having a job, is acceptable, and they do. Whenever we see ourselves in a situation, it means, let's start from thinking, you have already thought and accepted the events and the ideas that brought you to that position. If somebody agrees and thinks, well, the water is full of dangerous animals, you'll find somebody who doesn't go to the beach at all. Because in their mind, sharks are floating all around, and chances are very good at getting bit by one. Some people never ever think that when they're going to go boarding, they're going to get eaten by a shark. So they do. They go out, they have a good time. It's so important. The ideas that we've come to accept, that were basically put there by our environment. I can't do this because XYZ. This is not good for me because XYZ. This is a stupid thing to do because of that. And then we take that list and bring it up to today's reality, and that's what our lives have become. For many people, their lives are full of thoughts, I can't, I won't, this is wrong, that's happening. I make a joke and I call them the escalators and the elevators going down, because all these thoughts hold us in place of not being able to achieve things that we would very much like to achieve. So I've been thinking very, very devotedly almost, I want to be happy. And that means I cannot afford to tell myself or to think of anything negative or unloving. And you know me well enough to believe me, I have slain thousands of people in my mind. All the rotten drivers, all the rotten people, I've killed them all in my imagination. I've grabbed them by the throat, shaken them upside down and gotten my money back, everything. But that has had its own results. So then I've decided I will not think, fantasize, or have anything to do with a thought that's an elevator down. Does that make sense? How does it make sense to you?
It makes total sense to me. I think it's been brought up here before. And it's usually a little scary concept to me, because then I have to start looking at all the thoughts of my days, and a lot of them are escalator down. But I do believe, and I think I believed this before I even came across this idea, somehow instinctively, that not to think negatively about. That's not how I said it in my head, but not to think bad thoughts, and
better. It's like riding a wave. You just got to keep on it. You got to keep on it. If you lose your perspective, you're going to fall. And I was just thinking about, we spoke a little bit about India last night, and so I was thinking about traveling, and I remember I knew nothing about, I traveled a bunch of years ago, and I knew nothing about different countries and different foods and nothing. I pretty much spent most of my years, through my teenage years here. And I remember when I went away, I just tried every kind of food. I ate all different, I didn't really take the pills you were supposed to take, and I just thought, if I don't think I'm going to get sick, I won't get sick. And I saw people who were really careful and on their mind all the time, I'm going to drink an ice cube, that might get me sick. And those people inevitably got violently ill all the time. And so that was the first time where I came kind of face to face with this thought that maybe there's something real to this. And yeah, more and more it makes a lot of sense. It's like, if I ask myself, why am I in a certain job and I don't want to be there? Or why am I in a certain other situation I don't want to be there? And I have to, face the fact that I've thought my way into this. And it makes a lot of sense. And the same thing with great things that have come to me, that I'm grateful for. I think also that it's been a result of wanting a certain thing and focusing on that and positivity. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
It sounds like it makes sense to you. Yeah. Well, as I've looked around me through my experiences, through my readings, whatever people complain about in their lives that is not going well or there's something wrong, I found that just about every single time it's been the acceptance of a thought that turned into that reality. We don't really believe that today's thinking is going to actually happen tomorrow. But I've looked in myself and I see that yes, all of today's ideas are born there, they're thought about, and tomorrow they start to take shape. They start to take reality. They become the habits, they become the lifestyle, they become tomorrow's reality. And it takes, I believe it takes some patience and some courage to be able to say, all the things about my life that I don't like are because I thought them into reality. Very hard to accept that. The upside is, whatever I don't like, I simply have to change my thinking about it, and that will happen tomorrow, or the next week, or the next year. It's not enough to say, I am going to do differently. No, I think it has to start with, I am going to think differently, and then my life will change. And I think that that's the starting point for all kinds of self-work, to begin to change the ideas that we are familiar with, the ideas that we accept. I start to think, what bank robber ever says to himself, oh my God, this is dangerous to do. You could get shot here. Wow, no, I'm not going to do that. Bank robbers don't think like that. For them, it's okay. Not a bad idea. Make a lot of money very quickly. You jump in your car and you speed away and all's well. Which of your ideas would you rethink and no longer think like you did? Whatever change you've seen in your life is because somehow you started thinking differently about the situation. My wife is a dreadful person. I can't stand it. I'm unhappy. I wish I could afford a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. You know why I can't afford the lawyer? Because I didn't go to school. You know why I didn't go to school? Because my father did that. And it goes on forever and ever and ever. And for so many people, that's the ongoing dialogue. There's the reason why it isn't working out, but none of these reasons are because I thought it would. How easy do you dare, first of all, to change your thoughts?
Yes.
Have you seen any thoughts that you don't like?
Several. Innumerable.
Do you believe that by changing those thoughts, you could change your reality?
I do, to an extent. The idea of our reality being influenced by our thoughts in a very direct and clear way has at various times made a lot of sense to me, and it makes some sense to me now, and yet I don't feel as though it's true.
I know that. There's the way you said the first half of that first sentence.
At times I have felt it's true. The famous car bumper incident.
Right.
I felt it then.
Mm-hmm. But the bad news is that 99% of what I'm talking about won't work. You've got to believe 100%. It's as if Stefan were the guy that does housework for me. I tell him this, I tell him that, I tell him this, I tell him that. Then I throw in, well, maybe we shouldn't. Now he's lost. That little one thought is the little bit of a doubt. And of course in the parables that's part of the doubting Thomas. It's part of what makes even our jury trials. If there's a doubt that this person is innocent, you can't find him guilty. That means that you are being asked to develop a faith in a thought that is 100% believable by you and 100% committed to. If you say, I believe in God, I believe in God, I believe in God, but yesterday I didn't, you don't believe in God. And whatever you, quote, asked God isn't going to happen because you don't believe. To really believe in something. Don't give me money, give me faith to believe in X, Y, or Z. How's your level of faith, sir? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. How's your level of faith, sir?
Good.
Good, you
Elevated.
believe 1,000%.
Well, yes. Just before my call with you on Monday, I thought my life was in shambles, and I thought things were falling apart, the job front, relationship front. But I thought that's okay. I felt like I had this connection with my spirit, connected to the energy of the world, and that all fell apart. The strongest thing I need is gravity walking through it, so I'll be totally fine. I'll be totally okay. And that idea, I was just jotting down things I used to not believe. I used to not have faith. I used to not believe in God. I used to think I was fat, couldn't try my best, won't succeed, I can't get A's, can't be a good student. I used to believe all these things, and all these things have now changed. I used to tell myself these things all the time, and now it's different. I tell myself the opposite. I can't be the best, I can't be successful, I can't be in a loving relationship, I can have a good family, and I make it happen. It all starts with this faith, realizing that it's like a path through any rocky waters or earthquake, tornadoes, anything. Just keep walking. Because I have this connection with Creator.
You have a connection with your Creator? How did you find that?
It took a lot of practice. First,
How did you practice? That's the important part.
well, I started thinking that I have the right to believe in what I want to believe in.
Mhm.
That it's okay to believe in that. And then I started developing and practicing ideas from many things that I read. Read a lot of books. And then I started resonating with things that I believe in and practicing them in. And then I started practicing praying. And praying helped a lot in developing this routine, this action. And the things that I used to believe in, the construct, the things of society, started fading more, and the spiritual side started elevating more. And I thought that was the one thing that could grow and become more positive instead of negative while life is uncertain and uncontrollable.
What's praying?
Praying is asking for help. Praying is sending positive energy to other people in my ideas. It's connecting with my spirit, what I think is a spiritual being, connecting to spirit and pushing out thoughts, asking for things from that, of the invisible world, believing that those things happen.
Are you saying that praying is related always to asking for something?
No, it could be giving as well, being thankful and having a lot of gratitude as well. Like it's gotten to the point now, as soon as this man wakes up in the morning, he instantly starts thinking of his higher power to God. He instantly starts giving positive thoughts to people around him, people in his life, and situations.
You ask God for something. Does God have the right to ask you for something?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the universe. Absolutely.
Does God ever seem to ask you for something?
I think all the time.
What's the last thing that God wanted from you?
He wants positivity from Mark. He wants Mark to be an upstanding member of his community. He wants him to be a good role model for his friends. He wants him to believe in his Creator. And he wants him to walk through life as if he is embodied in his spirit.
Does God love you?
Yes.
What makes you believe that God loves you?
Because I love my God. So maybe reciprocate.
If you love God so much, what have you done for God lately?
Thought about God. Thought about helping other people.
Thought.
Put those thoughts into action. And then revisited things in the past. Mark wasn't the best guy. Thought about how you can make those things better in the future.
How is this affecting your life?
It's making Mark's life easier in a way to deal with anything that comes Mark's way. And it makes things that seemed insurmountable in the past able to walk through them. Mark's able to do things he never thought were possible. You know, like just telling someone how he feels, which used to be impossible. Being present with his family, he didn't think was possible. Being in a functional relationship, being honest and transparent. All these things he believes are gifts.
Be inside your heart right now. Be inside that heart that talks to you. At this moment, can you love that heart that is you?
Yes.
Can you say something loving to that heart that is you?
I love you. Thanks for giving me energy. Thanks for giving me the ideas I have. Thanks for words.
See that I love you came out hollow. Think it again. Think it with every bit of yourself inside. It's not just words. It's an emotion. Can you feel a deep emotion right now?
Yes.
What's it like?
Feels like it's emanating from a place in my body that's not my head. It's like the pit of Mark's stomach. And Mark's trying to connect with that, see what that's like, and to sit with it.
What about the times that God disappointed you? Maybe even lied to you. What happens with that?
I would see it more as an obstacle course more than lies. Meaning, God's just putting things in front of me to get to something that I was supposed to get to. Not lies or misconceptions, but lessons Mark needed to learn or experiences Mark needed to have in order to get somewhere to learn. And to have an oh moment later, like, oh, that's why that happened. Oh, that's why this bad thing happened. This yesterday.
Have you ever been in love with somebody?
Yes.
Are you willing to realize that loving the Creator is 20 times or 100 times or 1,000 times stronger than that?
I'm willing to think that. And to contemplate that.
Remember the old man who said, you cannot do something alone. You cannot do by yourself.
So that's the idea that God is always with me. So I always have a companion with me to do something.
So when you turn around and put out the light, just take one little thing and put out the light. You can't do that by yourself. Be grateful that something is giving you the power to do that. How do you feel that?
Be peaceful.
I believe you feel more than just being peaceful. Maybe not.
Peaceful is a mixed emotion, right? So it has something to do with relaxed, grateful, and absence of fear.
What do you feel stronger?
It's like a lot of there's a strong sense of gratitude. Being able to sit in a room and listen to people who are making total efforts towards authenticity and with telling the truth about things that are so abstract that they really are very hard to put to words, and more often than putting to words kind of sound strange as soon as they come out of the mouth. But there's an earnestness and a love for the pursuit of what we've all been after for so many years. That the way I feel right now is I'm satisfied, peaceful.
What do you think of the idea of trading that satisfied, peaceful mode, spirit, into something extremely passionate, extremely strong, extremely emotional? God, if you exist, damn it, help me!
Well, that happens when it's called for.
When it's called for, who does the call?
I think through observing, there's a way to meet moments that call for certain intensity. And
You
then-
decided to feel peaceful.
Well, I'm listening. I'm in a stationary mode right now. I'm listening to Mark, and I'm sitting here and I'm breathing, and that's what I'm doing.
Then do more than that.
Well, now that you've called on me and you want to know where, now I'm getting a little bit more held up.
Take everything she said very, very seriously and pay attention to it. What are you hearing from her?
I heard her experience of her present moment and what she came here to do. I heard her authenticity.
Did you hear anything from her or from anyone that was not said? Because that's where we really hear from people. We hear what people say means very little. What they don't say, what they put between the words, the silences. Have you decided not to cut into your own heart to feel the blood, the pain, the ecstatic joy, and all of that?
Don't understand that one.
You don't. Okay. Do you understand part of it?
I've been stuck on the thought that you presented several minutes ago, where you said, "Have you ever loved someone?" to Mark. He said yes. And you said, "Do you understand that loving your creator can be 20 times as powerful?" And the purest sense of love that I've experienced is for my children, and I was trying to imagine the multiple of that. And that made me appreciate just how far I am from the kind of love or faith that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've been trying not to get on the escalator down. I'm not good enough, I'm lacking, or whatever, all of that stuff. And so I think I think what you're talking about is the idea or the impression I have of something that intense is also a point of great vulnerability, which I think is part of what you said in terms of cutting your heart open and putting it there to feel that kind of intensity.
Do you feel you are saying something? I know you're saying something because I'm feeling it. If I only felt it with my intelligence, if it made sense, yes, I know that I'd be dead to what you're saying. I know what you're saying I'm alive to because I feel it emotionally. Years and years ago, Chon was around at that time. I remember saying, if we want the spirits or God or heaven or something to really hear us, we must say it with an intensity of emotion that they cannot turn us off. When we say to a prayer, oh yes, I hope my father finds a job because he's behind in the rent. Please God, if you can. It isn't enough. It's 1/1,000,000th not enough. Is your wanting this job for your father so important to you that it is the most important thing that could ever happen to you in your life at this very instant, that God must hear you? This idea must travel 36 trillion light years to reach the ear of the Creator. How many of our thoughts are at that level? Because if they're not at that level, they are not prayer, and they will not bring enlightenment, and they will not bring the things that we think we want. Remember the dark night of the soul. Do you remember what angel that was? Who wrote the dark night of the soul?
St. John the Cross.
Who?
St. John the Cross.
You have the book.
Can any one of us, not only can, I know we can, do we take the time, do we dare to go into that? Can we feel immensely inside, God, if you don't love me, I will die. I will explode. My very blood will run on the streets. Please, this dark night, don't leave me without your love. And feel that tremendously strong. Feel it so strongly that the Maker will say, no, I'm not going to leave you. I can't leave something I've created. I won't leave you. But if it's kind of okay with you, well, okay with God. Or it's okay with the man next door, or it's okay with wherever we are. Do we dare to say, if our life hinges on the emotion, do we dare to have that strong, that powerful an emotion? Can we beg with that much flinging of ourselves on our hands and knees on the floor, please this or please that? Or I take responsibility. There was a pretty terrific movie by an English actor I like. It starts out with him living with a tribe of apes in Africa. And the apes are set upon by the soldiers or the peacekeepers of that part. And it is the responsibility of the head ape to protect his tribe. And he does. And they kill him. They shoot him. Years from that incident, the man himself is now put in jail. And he feels the same situation with another prisoner in jail, that he must protect him, that he must give his life for him if need be. And as the movie, that he gets out of jail and the camera takes us to the African continent and he goes there. Is a sense of responsibility that strong? Do we dare to have a sense of responsibility perhaps stronger than for maybe the 1, 2, 3, or 4 people who we are born with? Do we dare have that sense of responsibility for the world in general? Do we dare to live from the emotional center, from the heart? When we want, are we starved? When we're afraid, does our body shake? Must examine that part that has set controls upon everything so that it should not feel, maybe not feel too much. Because I'm asking that people reevaluate what they wanted, what they want now, how they feel about where they are, and what kind of a fire must they start within them to change where they are. You were about to say?
Yeah, I feel like I'm going through a big change in that I want to change almost everything in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel like it has to take an incredible amount of eruption in order to happen. But it's so easy to just continue the next day, the next day, the next day. There's repetition. Some kind of like fierce, shrieking has to happen to make it, to cut through, to make it different. And I generally I've been working the other way, which is acceptance, 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 acceptance. I've been working on that for a long time.
And now you've mastered it.
And now it's like, no. There's a big no, saying, I don't want to go down this way till the end. Because I can kind of see how it can go. And I feel like I have a limited amount of time left in my life, and I don't want it to be a repetition of what has been. I want to throw out everything.
Don't want. Be willing to die for it. Because the part of you that did want it in the past is going to have to die. That does not mean that your body winds up on a slab. It's not that kind of dying. It's the kind of dying when a part of ourselves realizes, I have no more power over this instrument called James. When I say to myself, my mind will not accept a certain kind of thought, It means that, like Albert mentioned in that story last year, I must say to part of mine, get out, stop it, no, go away. You're killing me with what you're doing to me. Then it might listen. Others say, no, well, then the part says, well, I'll be back tomorrow. Remember the time when we sat when I was in Cuenca and we had a meeting, and just about everybody, when their turn came up, said they wanted to do a little less. How to do a little less, how to feel a little less, how to be a little less involved. And I'm saying no, it's how to be more and more and more involved. Because the thoughts in a man's mind will put him in his grave. Believe me, I promise you, I swear to you. The thoughts that a person holds begin to manifest in their body, not this month, next month. At some point, what's growing here or died there or is stopping here or is rotting here started out with a thought. So if you want that state to go, you must be willing to die for it. Because other than that, I won't believe you. And if I won't believe you, the heavens won't believe you. That part of you that is already the authoritative part of the universal subconscious, as Jung tells us, you must feel that part of you. It isn't so much something out there that says, oh God, please help me. It's in here. God dwells in here, in you, in me. I want that part of me that is God-like to help me. That means I've got to believe that there's a part of me that has that capacity. And if there's a part of me that has that capacity, a part of you has it, and you, and you, and you, and everyone. I've got to believe, man, that you are God to yourself and to me. I have to believe in you. It isn't an abstraction somewhere. What I want from life, I must beg Mark to give me. And the man on the street, and her, and you, and him. And myself. You're asking for a miracle. And you must believe that you have the power to grant yourself that miracle. Do you remember the years of saying, I am alive, I want to live? Was that just an easy 9 words that roll out, I want to live? Yeah, quite all. Is there a demon in it? Pamela knows the demon I speak of. That's the duende. This is the duende. The demon that lies on the floor and says, I want to live, and smashes the floor if need be. I pray, man, I want to live. Have you lately held yourself and wept over that little man that is you? Don't try to dry those tears. Let those tears roll And as they roll down your face and into your heart, they will write your future. We're all the little creatures who are screaming out from our depths, please love me. Please love me. Until I feel that you love me, I cannot love me. So I wait to be convinced that you love me. And we're all waiting for each other to convince each other that we love each other so we can come to love ourselves. And we're all playing it kind of cool. Let's be cool. I'm saying let's burn. Let's set fire. Let's set a torch to our own want, to our own fear, to our own everything. What does your heart feel like now, Mark?
It feels like it's slightly constricting within my chest, and I was thinking about emotions. I didn't grow up with lots of emotions, and so feeling it and letting it sink in, the power I give myself, talking and giving about, I want a miracle, go out and get it. And it's so transformative than any time I thought about miracles before. It's the idea that anything is possible if one wants to do it. So it feels like energy inside of Mark. And of course, the idea of burning something, like really got Mark going. I was thinking that you could just burn down anything from your past, whatever you want it to be, take the form of art, anything, burn it and recreate something else. Create a new cycle for oneself by burning the past.
And in alchemy, it's burning until the dross is burnt. Because before the gold comes visible, all the dross must disappear. When you listen to someone say hello or goodbye or it's a nice day, inside in your heart, because these ears have only a small range of notes they hear, like a dog. The dog hears up here, humans don't. And we hear the story that the person is saying. And it is our responsibility to hear the part that is saying, yes, it was a nice day and I went to the beach and my car needs a radiator. And inside was really coming out is, please love me. And when you hear that and you know that that's what's being said, something will happen to you. Your hearing will improve, and your voice will improve, and your magnet will improve, because that's what they're all saying. All the little people on the street, the people on you, the man next door, the taxi driver, they're all saying, please love me. As if they could say, before I came to this earth, I was in the presence of that which loved me profoundly. And I came to this earth to learn something. And once here, I have forgotten what it is I came to learn. I've forgotten that there is something to learn. Except that inside, deep, deep, deep in the quietness, because if it's quiet enough, we can't feel our own pain. I want to receive the love that I received in the infinite before I came here. And we must receive that love while we're here. And in that darkness before we were born, before we were created, before the soul came here, not only did the soul feel the love of the Creator, but the soul also felt the love for the Creator, the love for the infinite. And here it is with a vague knowledge that this exists and we want it, and nowhere do we read how to find this and how to get it, or that even that's the game that's going on. You came here to do something. You came here to learn the capacity to love another being and to be loved by another being. And as James says, the time clicks and clicks and clicks and goes on, and that isn't happening, and that isn't even being thought of too often. Here and there it's mentioned in passing, but not to the intensity that it could become dangerous. Dangerous to what? Dangerous to the status quo. The duende is not here to offer you peace. The duende is here to offer you the greatest battle of all time. And to prepare to do the greatest battle of all time, the words "I can't" are not allowed to show up. Yes, I will. Remember years ago I wrote, such a major part of life, my life, is played out with the idea of somewhere, somehow, I will find someone who gives me the love I want. And then as time passes, the prayer becomes, somehow I will find somebody who I can love as much as I wanted to be loved. And it doesn't matter at all if they love me or they don't. I'm in this to learn how to love. Then life changes. What do you think of all this stuff, Susan, with your dog? Can your dog speak? No, your dog is sleeping. He's sleeping through my act.
Well, I was thinking when the word responsibility came up, and that it's a person's responsibility to do this or that, and to me that seems so ponderous and heavy, and I prefer to think of what is it that's my joy to do, and then I want to go do that. And I don't really want to think about what's my responsibility to do, because then it's a burden. But if it's what's my joy to do, then I want to do that, because to me, the Creator wants everything that is created to be the fullest of itself that it can be, because that's why it was created. So the flowers blooming, the flower doesn't say to itself, well, it's my responsibility to bloom. The flower blooms because that's its nature to do that. And it's just expressing its pure nature. And maybe it's joy. I don't know if flowers can feel joy or not. They look like they do. And I feel like I'm just a flower, really. I'm the same as a flower. I'm just another creation of the Creator. And so I want to blossom just like a flower and become as much of myself as I can become, and experience as much joy as I can, because to me that's what the Creator wants. So sometimes I do something just because I want to do it, just because I like doing it. And I don't think about what's my reason for doing it. Like I'll meet someone and I just like the person. I have a couple friends, they're insurance agents. Why am I friends with insurance agents? That's not very cool. I don't know, I just like them. Larry and Carol. I like them for no reason other than just I like them. I don't have to have a reason for liking them. So I think we can extrapolate that and say, you know, you see a beautiful sunset. What's the meaning of the sunset? What's the purpose of the sunset? You know, what's the meaning of it? And then I feel like, you know, if, like Louis Armstrong said about jazz, if you have to ask what jazz means, then you're never going to know what it means.
Can the idea of joy be referring back to the soul when the soul has realized that it is conceiving what it should conceive? When I find the purpose of soul, will I then find joy? Pam, what do you think of all this? It's taking place in your house. Good heavens.
I was just thinking about the importance of speaking up, and how to become a person that sees those opportunities much more than not. And tonight, I went to the community board meeting, the full board. Last week I went to the committee that was not deciding because the community board just advises the Board of Standards and Appeals. Had to do with David Sinclair getting the right to have his air rights bought by the developers.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to leave to come here tonight, but probably the developers won out. But I see that there was no one speaking up on behalf of the tenants. There was last week, Patty, who was an incredible advocate. So I was just thinking, based on the fact that I settled and made an agreement with the developers and signed my rights away. And that I said, well, what could I have done differently? Because I think, you know, could we have not really spoken up, being that we sold out? It was unclear. But in that meeting, I could have said great things about the preservation of culture, of what New York means to me, of how uninteresting money is. It's not an experience, and it really doesn't buy you anything. It buys you what you need. Maybe everybody's delighted that I'll survive and I won't be destitute, but I'm almost not. I almost would rather be destitute. That edge for myself is like the lack of creativity in the world around me so extreme. And each one of these little moments, the chair of the land use committee from last week, she could see what was going on. It wasn't about tenants, it was about technicalities of air rights. But the sense in the room from some of the people that everybody knew what was happening. Those who were awake knew it was the end of a certain valuable quality in the culture. And the drivenness with which one feels those feelings, and how when it's appropriate, when there's an opening, that you say, you speak up, or you do something. Just how the Native Americans, they survived all the attacks to their culture, to their children. And we're living in a time where with the climate, things are happening that are just as dire. But the way death is occurring now is different. So I remember seeing the great film Shoah on the Holocaust. That's what evil looked like in that time. But it won't look the same. It'll always look different. So when you think that evil isn't existing, it is winning whenever you, I really thought about what could I have done differently. And I think I could have been a little more awake and said something. But at least I can use it to say, how can I be more awake the next time?
What's your fear?
No, I had to be careful because of what we signed. And I wasn't sure what things had been left in and taken out in the documents. So I think I should have read it more carefully, or whatever, realized that the community board was an opportunity. But it's seeing that opportunity, seeing the door, at least investigating. So you have to be cautious.
To what extent do you put your thinking and your brain before your intuition?
Enough that it needs to be changed.
And change it. Even that requires a lot of thought. Why should we even think that the intuition should be saved at the expense of the brain? As if in some way we've come to say, I am so removed from myself that I go to somebody else to tell me what's wrong with me, rather than trust and believe in what my intuition tells me. Because perhaps a person should know their body better than the so-called doctor. I heard that the house you built is beautiful. You never said so. I never asked you. I heard that it's beautiful. You did a piece of work that was essential to you, and you listened to the intuition from yourself, and you believed it, and you did it. And to my knowledge, you did it alone. And I would like to share with you the honors that go with you for doing something, daring to do it, and doing it alone. I've never seen it. I probably never will. But thank you for being a man in the community who does something that he believes in.
Sometimes it seems like ultimate insanity.
Whenever you do something wonderful, it feels like ultimate insanity. That's the brain saying, I've been outproduced by the heart. Believe your heart before you believe your brain.
I do with my heart, and then I criticize with my brain. And it's like my brain can't understand why this creature continues to insist on doing what he's doing.
Would you consider your brain is in actuality your ego? And that means that in all probability it's the biggest enemy you have. Your brain has been trained to produce a certain quality of work and has not been trained to produce other things. And the brain squeals and screams when it's being overshadowed. Think with your heart, because that's where the real mind is. That is the meaning of essence. The essential self that is located in the heart or in the emotional center. Bring me a picture of it one day, if the mood ever strikes you. And you are getting older. There are lines beginning to form around your aura. There are those of a man who is becoming a man. Good for you. Believe in yourself more than you believe in others. And you've had a night of many different thoughts. And that I would present these thoughts was not so expected. Where are you inside?
There's a war going on inside.
I hope you lose. I did. What's your war about?
The war is between the David who, as James said, is going along day after day and has his goals and wants and desires, and the David that listens to what is presented tonight and says there's more to this life than what the other David is striving for. And do you have the courage, and the chair used the word, do you dare? And when I heard that word in the beginning of the evening, I don't think I appreciated it. It seemed maybe poetic flair that the chair has. And in this moment, that word the use of that word makes all the sense in the world, because that's what it is. Do I dare to really believe this and go down this path?
Don't expect the same suit to appear proper on every day. There's a part of you that's called the survival part, the base part, the sensing part, the man of the body, the man of the world, the man who, like a dog, is limited to hearing from low C to middle C. And that's all that a dog is supposed to hear. That's the man that Maurice Nicole was speaking of. That man is only capable of wanting to live, wanting to exist, wanting to survive. His wants, his capacities are very limited. Above that man, the Übermensch, as they say, has the capacity to think of the spirit, the beyond, the before, the invisible, that which makes no sense to the survival man. So, beneath that man that I see there are two men, and that's why we've always spoken of Jekyll and Hyde, and the man Friday and the leader, and always, 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 there's been the notation that within that man we see on the street, there are two. to the superior man that Maurice Nicole refers to, the issues of incarnation, reincarnation, whence he came from, was he alive, and in what sense was he alive before he came here? Those things are a waste of time to the man of the senses. If I can't see it, hear it, smell it, it doesn't exist. Why the hell bother with it? However, to the other man where Gurdjieff begins, the new man, that man is not satisfied with just survival. He's finally accepted that he can and will survive. And the other part is clamoring for its recognition. That's called the purpose of the soul. What did your soul come here to do? What's the purpose of this creature picking out a life, picking out parents, picking out a time? You did that. There are no accidents. And you will find very little, if any, peace until you find what your purpose of soul is. Of course, for that, many of us have to do the exploratory work of believing that there is a soul, and believing that we have one, and believing that the soul has wants and needs. But once that's done, then what are you going to do? Till then there will be no peace, because the soul itself is clamoring to be on its way, to do what it realizes it came here to do. To survive the shock of birth, to survive the shock of death. Will this soul again return to eternity without knowing what it was going to do? So, one day in the breaking of your heart, speak to that soul and tell it, I can no longer bear that you don't know why you are here. And exert as much effort as you can to find the purpose of your soul and deliver in your promise to this soul as your responsibility. What say you to that? Don't even have to think, just open your heart and let the contents spill out.
It was very poignant to me the way you expressed this idea at the end. The breaking of the heart, that it will take a breaking of this heart, this man's heart. It's the point where he can no longer bear defaulting, if you will, on the responsibility. And it makes sense the way the chair presented that for this person, because the chair knows that if he presents it as though it is a responsibility, there's a chance that could get through to David. Whereas for another person, the chair might present it some in a different way. But the breaking of the heart is is what I fear. I fear this breaking apart. I fear the death that the chairs talked about tonight. I fear what seems like a life that is completely foreign to me. And yet there's something that's always compelled me to come back to this room, to not give up. It's been 14 or so years, so something in me is not giving up. That one day, what the jurors described might actually come to pass.
A long time ago it was said that one should never use the word I, which you used unsparingly in your communication. And I dare say that most of the I talking was your ego, which is afraid to die, which is afraid to lose its post of command in your existence, because that which is essential is not afraid of anything. The essence has no fear. It is not going to lose anything. It's going to be born. So one day you may think again and hear my words when I say to you, when you hear the words of your condition, you will realize that those are the words of liberation. And at that instant, you will make the jump from one existence to another, and no longer even feel the fear, but say yes. Those words that one hears, that one always thought would bring shock and awe and terror, now we see they bring freedom and hope and courage and a total lack of fear. Because the only fear is that you won't hear those words. But if you've done early good work, the words will come to you. You're a father, so you know what it is to give birth and to see the existence of what you gave birth to. Now, in another permutation, give birth to your soul. Because perhaps you've given birth to children to practice and to gain experience in giving birth to yourself. And if it turns out that you shudder and shake of your fears, then find me somewhere and I will hold your hand. And you will not feel fear. And that I say to everyone that ever hears my voice. Find me wherever I am, and I will hold your hand. You will not feel fear. You wanted to hear these things. You wanted to hear what I've said. You wished it. You wished it for me from the benevolence of your being. Because you know that not only are you hearing what I'm saying, but that I'm hearing what I'm saying. What's going on inside you, Mr. X?
Thinking about what Cher was just speaking about, particularly the fear of death and how it relates to the I. Sitting here having an experience of the I that doesn't want to give up its individuality to death. And yet, if what we were talking about earlier, that this universal connectedness, that everything is really all one, and there really is no such thing as death, except death to the I.
How interesting to see that all the things that we've been afraid of have been ghosts and shadows.
Recently I've been taking on a practice of, I guess it would be easily termed putting aside jealousy, putting aside how one thinks about other people. If really we're all connected in this way, the ability to look at someone and to see their successes, their love, their whatever they may have, as mine as well. I see them in a new way. I find it a pretty difficult practice because my eye wants to reassert itself, my own jealousies or desires that come from a very ego-based place don't like living that way. But I think seeing us all as having a victory in life, a success in life, connecting myself to other people, trying to help them achieve more, if I can achieve more with them.
Maybe even helping them if you can't achieve more.
Absolutely.
They're starving to death before your very eyes. They're shriveling from cold. They're hungry. Their need is desperate. Not their body needs, their soul needs. And as much as their soul needs, your soul needs to manifest to them.
And you hear the unspoken words more. The pain that lies under people's outward expression.
Emerson said that we live a life of quiet desperation. That's the desperation. I'm so glad you came this evening.
reminded how what takes place here in this space doesn't take place anywhere else. This discussion only takes place here, and the space is going away. Perhaps everybody knows, but between the lines of what Anna was saying, in a year, this building's going to be knocked down. The hotel will be built. The space which has been created by the chair and really by all of us here, through the discussions, through the work that has gone on, is not going to exist as we know it.
No, it won't exist as we know it. It will exist
It will exist.
in a way that we don't know yet. And when it happens, that will be the physician that brings the bad news. And with the bad news comes liberation. When we realize within ourselves that wherever we are go, it will exist because this is the great work. Doesn't matter, as long as you and I are thinking, the work goes on. It cannot stop. The work doesn't belong to us. We belong to the work. There's no stopping this. At one point, we're all going to have to get used to the idea that we really don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We really don't. And being so slick and sly and hip as we are, we say, of course, I know that. I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. But to really, really feel it inside, no, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. That changes everything. And it doesn't make sense at all until it happens to you. Because we believe that we are that slick. That because we think something, we know it. We don't know. We're able to piece together an idea that makes sense, doesn't really have a soul. The soul is when you realize, I don't know anything. And if you really believe that, then you will find the tinge of terror that comes with utter helplessness. And then, to override that tinge of terror, comes a seated knowledge that says, but there's something that will take care of it. And as they say, you're never given anything you can't handle. Feel free to call me, to write to me, to send me notes. Feel free to curse my very soul if that comes to your mind. I'm there. It's my job. I'm there for you every moment of my life because you are the only family I have. Now, Peter, tell us your ideas that you're not good enough, and you know where we're leading, of course. Get us started. Give us the vamp.
Skip bop boop bop. How's that? You're asking the question. It's not about music. My thought on that topic is
Not on that topic. We've already had that. We were talking about a certain condition that you have brought up a few times.
yesterday.
Yesterday was only one day. I've always brought it up.
You're talking about the thing I presented to you about the attention span.
No. No. I'm talking about the feelings that you have that you
Not being good enough.
not be. Is that what it is?
Yes. It's a thing I do battle with all the time. It's an experience I have. It's a voice that's there at all times. And I consider it one of the cards I've had in my deck for many years. And I could say it has not changed all that much. My experience is that it's here, and I can tell it no very firmly and seriously, continuously, and that seems to be the only thing that will alleviate it.
Well, at least you found something to alleviate it. Then we felt we would come here, you would bring your axe. That's musicians' terminology for whatever they have in these suitcases that they travel around with. And what are we going to do?
You're play some tunes.
We're going to play some tunes. We have a captive audience. We're going to give them their just desserts. Yeah. See, Peter's talking about having an idea that doesn't leave him that he's not good enough. And he goes someplace where musicians are and they take out their horns and he takes out his, and it's always going through his mind. He's not good enough.
I have to share with that subsector of the idea, I did have a tremendous breakthrough, which is that I go to these jams and just feel legitimately in Brooklyn, I can't say about the city, but the level of musicianship is incredibly high in the jazz realm, and I'm still very new to jazz. I've been studying it for about a year and a half, and whether I'm taking a lesson from somebody, playing with someone, listening to music at a jam, I've continuously had this thing where it's, I'm apologizing to people, I'm sorry, I'm not good enough, and just that basic voice has been there. And at a point I just said, what good will this actually do? Will it provide anything? Possibly a charge to continue studying and work harder. But what I basically came to the realization was, I said, it will serve no purpose. I can't say it anymore. I guess I've made this almost exclusive to music. I should try to expand it. But I just said, I'm where I am and it's totally fine. No more with this voice. Like when that comes up, it's over with. So it's been game over in the realm of music, at least, for that voice.
So we're going to play. This is what we do in Ecuador. We're with people that can play, but don't know the language of jazz. Don't know the freedom of it. Don't know it. And Sue performs as the band leader and master, and the players begin to understand jazz more, and then we give them a band that they can play it with and practice in, and Sue and I are the band people who not only allow this to happen, but participate in its happening and try to create it happening with a sense of artistry. And the people we're working with are getting better and better and better each week. To explain what I mean by free jazz means, pick any word that you can think of.
Socks.
Socks. Shoes.
Xylophone.
Xylophone. Xylitol. It's a good sugar.
Feather.
Feather. Heather. Wither. Weather.
Rain.
Go away, come back some other day.
Frosty the Snowman.
Frosty the Snowman. That's cool. She says something, and I respond to it. It makes some sense to her. It's making some sense to people here, but nobody knows where we're heading. We're not heading anywhere. We become conditioned to the fact that we should have a heading, something to do, with an aim, a goal, a direction, a result. There is no result. I don't know what I'm going to say. She doesn't know what I'm going to say. She says a word, I say a word, she makes a noise that we call a word, and I make a noise that I call a word, and we make noises towards each other. And sometimes people say, gee, I'm happy to be hearing those noises. And sometimes people say, those noises are horrid, I wish I hadn't come. I want my money back. That's the idea of the jazz that I present. I never know what key I'm in. I don't know what chords I'm playing. I don't have any idea of where it's going. I don't have any idea of how it's going to end. And it's called free jazz. I simply dare to make noises through my instrument, and if it comes out all right, whatever that means, I guess they won't shoot me. And if it doesn't come out all right, I guess they will shoot me. Who cares? And my co-culprit in this is Susan. What do you think should be told to them right now?
Well, I would say I disagree completely with everything you just said.
You see? You see? Okay.
And that's not at all how I think of it, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine for you to feel the way you do, and I to feel the way I do, and Peter to feel the way he does, however that is. I don't really know.
Okay, now what do we do?
Play.
I'm going to go get my kazoo. It's right here. This is called a saxophone. Now the musicians can eat. 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 Musicians can eat.